All right, we are live. Thank you for joining us. This is Yankee Chatter, episode 35, if I can count correctly. We're coming to you live from YouTube and Facebook on both the Yankee Chatter and Bigger and Bradder Sports Network YouTube page. So this program is brought to you by Bigger and Bradder Sports, and they're growing every day. So if you haven't subscribed yet, check them out. Subscribe. They talk about pretty much all sports, but a lot of football. And then you have our little show here, Yankee Chatter, which we are happy to be a part of the network.
Yeah, we should start hiring some cameramen soon. At least some IT guys.
Right? Deal with this spotty internet connection here. But this episode, we haven't really done this in a little while, mainly because of the virus, and we've been busy, and some of our states are opening back up, some of them aren't. I've been back to work for 3 weeks now, and I gotta say, being down here in Florida, people aren't really following the rules, and it's kind of crazy. So it makes you wonder why those numbers are going up. But anyways, we don't have to get into that. We're going to really talk about today the baseball season. Major League Baseball has announced that they are coming back. Finally gives us something else to talk about. That's the other reason we really haven't had a show, is because there hasn't really been much to talk about.
You know why it's coming back? Because Tino went online and said, "I'm calling it when there's going to be no season." And then that night, Manfred's like, "No, we're going to have a season." So he must have tuned in and saw that. Yeah.
So let's just do quick introductions here. My name is Greg Andriano. I'm on Twitter at GregAndriano05. This is Bradder up in New York, Bradder Chatter 1, and Big Tuna. You're a Big Tuna BBS, or I always get them mixed up. Did I get it right?
Yep, Big Tuna BBS. Bigger Bradder Sports. Remember to like and subscribe.
Yes. Check us out, like us, subscribe, all of us, share the word. Do what you gotta do. We're all here for you. So anyways, let's talk about this new season. Since here we are in June, end of June, and a couple days ago, Major League Baseball announced that they're going to do a 60-game season starting at the end of July with a couple weeks of spring training starting this week. What do you guys think? Initial reactions.
I didn't think it would happen.
I'm still skeptical until it happens, because I was telling him earlier, players with at-risk spouses or family members can still not – they can opt out and not play, and I'm still waiting to see the dominoes fall and if that's going to happen. And, like you said, the cases going up in Florida, Arizona, around the country here now. I'm still skeptical. But, hey, it's hope, right? I mean, we haven't even had hope since March. So, I mean, if you think back to it, in March, they shut down spring training for 2 weeks. Now it's 3 months. So it's hope.
Progress. It's
hope. And it's frustrating that it had to go the way it did. It made people like myself look at the players and the owners and the whole sport in a different lens, because the very public arguing that was going on between the two. And it had to take Manfred to mandate a certain schedule for them to even get to this point. But, hey, it's hope, right? It's something.
Yep. Yeah, we didn't think that anything was going to happen for a long time, and then even with the back and the forth, they must have gone back and forth like 5 or 6 times, and it was so public that each side was bashing each other, and it just makes you worry about next season.
It was a political campaign.
Yeah,
think about
pretty much, because it was basically trying to get you to feel sorry for that side, and really, when it comes down to it, both sides are greedy. Both sides don't really look that great in this situation. It's just that's where we are in all this. And finally, they settled on 60 games. If you, Brad, do you remember exactly how it went down? Because they had an offer on the table, right?
They didn't settle on 60 games. They got told to be 60 games. So originally, after the two sides met in one room together, Tony Clark and Manfred, they had the outline of a season that would work for both sides. But the biggest difference still was that the players wanted 60 games and the owners only wanted 50. And basically what Manfred did when he came down and mandated the season was he persuaded the owners to give the players those extra 10 games in hopes that the players don't file grievances after this. So That's how we get to 60 games.
And that was the big thing is both sides were threatening to file grievances, and it was going to get ugly, and you don't want. That's not the point of all this. Was they're trying to make sure everyone's safe and stuff gets figured out, and both sides are happy, because next season is going to be a struggle since the collective bargaining agreement expires, and with the way things went this season, it kind of makes you worry about what's to come.
Well, most people are already saying it's inevitable. Like, this is what we're seeing right now is going to be just a little glimpse of fun before the car wreck, basically. Everyone's expecting to be a work stoppage after this. There's never been a further disconnect right now between the two sides, and I think it's inevitable. There's going to be some kind of lockout after 2021, which is frustrating.
It's frustrating as a Yankee fan, because this season we just lost half a season of players like Judge, Torres, Andahar was healthy. All these guys that you've had this core built around. You're losing a year of that. Tanaka, and then get Paxton, and there's another big free agent at the end of this year that is on the Yankees that will be a free agent next year. You're missing out on that. And then if there's a strike next year, the same thing's going to happen. You're going to miss another year of Judge in his prime. You're going to miss another year of Torres. I mean, he's still young, but still, these are years that the Yankees have to make a run at a championship. And then this year we finally get Garrett Cole. We finally get that bona fide ace, and we've already lost out on half a year of him. If there's a strike next year, we're gonna lose out on another year of him. It's a lot of pain to go through as a fan.
It's one little nugget that's kind of cool though, Greg, is that now they're saying Hicks will be healthy when they finally start the season. So I think he's going to be the only player in history to get Tommy John surgery and never miss a game.
Yeah,
so
he will be.
For you.
He will be.
They're still saying Judge is still 50-50 on whether he's going to be ready by opening day. So whatever his injury was, it was pretty significant. We probably wouldn't have seen him this year anyways. But Paxton and Stanton are both good to go. So
yep.
It's all good news for the Yankees if you think about it. They're going to actually kind of climb for a sprint here at the end.
And the benefit – go ahead, Tino.
Is that the NHL, when they had their strike, the teams looked so much different the next year when they came back. So that's the thing the Yankees is going to be the biggest thing, is that roster might not look like anything because of what they put in the collective bargaining. Like the Lightning won the Stanley Cup the year before the strike. The next year, they were the worst team in the league. They didn't even make it to the playoffs when they came back. So that's a big thing, too, to me, is that the roster change over.
Yeah, and speaking of hockey, when does that playoff tournament start?
I don't even know.
July 30th.
Okay.
They're already saying
everything seems
getting COVID and stuff. It's
that's the big thing.
On hub cities right now, and the problem is, like I said, the virus cases keep going up. An issue they're having too, which is the same issue that we need to talk about with the Blue Jays, is that there's still a mandatory 2-week quarantine period if you go to Canada and if you're not essential, which athletes would be non-essential. So both baseball and the NHL are working on some kind of waiver with the government to let these teams go into Canada and play. Because obviously you can't go there, quarantine 2 weeks, and then play the game,
Right, because this week it came out that if you're traveling to New York from a lot of the southern states, Florida's one of them, you're required to take a 2-week quarantine entering into the state. So, again, you got 2 Florida teams down here. You got the Marlins and the Rays. So, and they have to both play the Mets and the Yankees, and they're division games. So, that's a tricky situation.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of protocols, a lot of isolation. It's not going to be fun for the players. I'm telling you right now. These players, and you don't want to feel bad for these guys because they're making a lot of money to play baseball. But what they're going to have to deal with this year, and where they're staying, how they're traveling, and what they do when they're in uniform, and they have to go to play the game to concentrate on the game. It's going to be very tough.
Baseball is one of those sports where everything's pretty much down to a routine as far as prep. I mean, most sports are, but baseball is a big one in that how do you prepare for the day? How do you prepare for the game? Stuff you do during the game to keep your mind focused. And now adding this extra layer of safety and precaution is gonna mess with some guys, definitely. And some of these guys that are usually at the top of the top tier of talent in the league, you might see some different results from them this year. I'm not going to throw out any names because I don't you don't know who's going to affect and how it's going to affect them. But I think some players are going to be drastically affected by this. And like you said, there are players who have family members with pre-existing conditions and deficiency disorders. They might not even play.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I told you that. So 3 players were at the rip. They might not play.
Which is going to suck. That's just not. I mean, that's why I think that I'm still a person that I think NHL, NBA, MLB, they all should just cut the corner and just say, you know what, it's time for us to. Because you look at the turnaround, especially for the NHL, they'll probably get done in August, and they have to be at training camp in September. Like, that's not fair,
No,
and same with the MLB. I mean, who knows how long they play into the – because if they play 60 games, are they still going to have the same playoff format? Like, same time frame?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have to because there's so many outdoor stadiums.
That's why they did it the way they did, was because if they had to start by a certain date and have an agreement in place by a certain date so they could finish at the regular time.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to go into later. Because if you get a playoff team like in New York or we'll use Seattle because it's up in the north. Not that they would make the playoffs, but just for the sake of the conversation, you're in cold climates.
Yeah.
You're going to be fighting off the snow. You're going to be fighting off temperatures in the 20s and 30s. And players aren't going to want that. Most of them are not from those areas. So
what I was saying, the players, if they have an at-risk spouse or family member or themselves at risk, they don't have to play. So I was telling Tina earlier, there's 3 guys right now that they might not play. They're big names. It's Mike Trout, whose girlfriend or wife is pregnant. Clayton Kershaw has a kid that's under a year old, another at risk. And then they see Ryan Zimmerman, who has a very young child plus some mother with disease, very at risk. So he already said he might not play. So I'm ready to see the dominoes fall of who's not going to play this year.
Plus, Garrett Cole, I think his wife is currently pregnant.
She is, yeah.
And is due during the season.
So what are you going to do about that? You can't not see your spouse or your mother or your kids for 4 months.
That's tough. It's a lot of extra circumstances and stuff that a lot of people don't think about or realize because people just see these guys as players, as entertainment. But they all have families. They all have people that they care about, and they don't want to get sick. And if they get sick, because Charlie Blackmon, I saw the other day, tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
And, he's got stuff he's going to have to deal with now. He's in 2-week quarantine. So it's just a lot to consider. And, we all may desperately want sports and we all may desperately want baseball. And that's the ideal situation. But if it's going to be a big thing with getting players to commit and keep people safe and healthy, and it might not be worth it. It might not. We had that conversation a couple episodes ago where it just might be worth it to just say not do it. Because you don't know if they could start spring training and then 2 weeks later the numbers could spike everywhere again and they could just say, forget it, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
That'd be the biggest problem was if they decide to start it and then stop it. I don't know if they would. I think in Japan or Korea, one of those 2 leagues, I think there have been 1 or 2 positive tests. They pretty much just dealt with it and then kept moving forward. I don't know how they did that.
Well, it'll be different. It'll be different if it's 1 or 2 players here and there. But if it starts spreading through the players, and you got 5 or 6 guys on a team per team, that's something that Major League Baseball is going to have to consider.
Well, even if it's 1 guy, though, you got to quarantine the team plus everyone they just played with. Right? So how do you do that?
Yeah, because you can imagine that the Yankees play the Mets, and then the next day, whatever, a third baseman gets COVID, and both teams have to just sit there for 2 weeks.
Yeah, then what do you do? Call up all the minor leaguers?
Yeah.
Then you have a replacement team, and no one wants to watch the replacement teams.
Dude, isn't there 50 guys on the team now instead of what it usually is?
Well, they have to submit a roster of 60 right now, but by the beginning of the season, I think you have to have 26.
Right, and they're going to have the players like healthy scratches that don't sit in the dugout; they'll sit in the stands. Those will be the only people in the stands.
And I heard, I don't know if this is going to go through or not because it wasn't finalized, but they want to have teams competing in Nashville of like unsigned guys to get them playing in case the team does need to sign somebody to replace players that've gotten either injured or the virus. I don't know if that's going to go through or not.
That's going to be rough.
That'll be interesting. I know there are still a handful of free agents out there. Like I know Scooter Gennett's still available, and a lot of people are trying to get the Yankees to make a run at him.
Free agent?
What about Big Boy?
Puig, I think Puig. There were talks of him going to San Francisco.
Yeah, he was
before all this. I don't know if they signed it because I think they stopped everything.
I don't think he signed it.
But I think they were in talks of him going there.
He
He's
was
a big
the
name.
number one available free agent right now.
Yeah,
Adam Jones, who's still really good, is playing in China right now.
Yeah, he's
what about
overseas.
Cologne? Bartolo?
He's training. Big sexy.
Gotta support
He's
your
got to be training until he's 75 wanting to pitch.
Yeah, that guy's gonna try and play until he can't walk anymore, and I'm sure by then he'll still find a way to play.
The thing is, though, too, is that you think about those names and people being scratched. Like, what's the financial? If a guy comes off the street, what do you give him? You know, a guy that's at all the minor leagues, it's like, you know, the owners are going to have to pay them too. It seems
probably
like
the minimum.
They'll probably get minimum.
The owner's got to pay out more money. You know.
Yep,
Yeah,
which
they're
is the last thing they want to do.
They're not making
They're losing money this year, but every owner of a team is worth billions, so I don't really feel too bad.
You don't feel too bad,
don't
but you
feel
think
bad
about how much harder the collective bargaining agreement is going to be if these guys are losing that much money. It's going to take them a long time to agree to something. Because if you have a good year, like the NFL, they threatened it, but they figured out how much money they're going to lose, and they signed it. It's like these owners are already, now they're going to be in the red already. So what's the, you know, what doesn't stop them from not being pains in the asses during the negotiations?
Mm-hmm.
If they're this stubborn about this, how bad is it going to be for the next year?
It's not looking great.
That's just my thing. I don't know.
It's not looking great. So let's talk a little bit about. So we got 60 games. Let's talk about how the schedule is kind of set up. We talked about it a little bit before, but let's kind of narrow it down. Like if we focus on the Yankees, since this is a Yankee podcast. 60 games. How's that schedule being broken down, Brad?
So each you're going to play only the teams in your region. So the Yankees will only play AL East teams and NL East teams. They're going to play 40 games against AL East opponents. You know, Rays, Red Sox, Blue Jays.
Yep, 10 games apiece.
10 games.
Then they're going to play 20 against the NL East. So Mets, Nationals, Braves, Marlins, and that's how it's going to be very unfair, but there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, NL East is pretty stacked compared to some of the other divisions. You got the Nationals, defending champs. Braves are really good. The Phillies are going to be really pretty good. The Mets usually hang around for a little while. And I had an interesting Twitter conversation with someone the other day because the Mets are always one of those teams that are always hot out of the gates. And this is one of the issues that this 60-game schedule presents, is that it's only 60 games. Full season is 162 games. So if you get a team that's hot out of the gate, that has a solid 60-game season, like the Mets or like a non-contender, you know, they have the opportunity of making a splash in the playoffs. And then if you get a playoff team like the A's have been the last 2 years, who are notorious for getting off to a slow start, they could miss the postseason altogether. So every game has a new weight to it. Every game has a significant meaning. Like football, every game matters.
Which is going to make it so fun, actually. You know, because there's a lot about these rules that I don't like. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be having fun because, number one, it's a sprint. Imagine every team tied for first place in August. That's basically essentially what you have. There is a way that both the Tigers, Orioles, these teams get hot. They can make the playoffs this year.
Yep.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Right on second base, which we'll get to. It's crazy. I don't like the rule, but I'm going to watch. It's going to be exciting. You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is
like you said, the NL East. They've got the Phillies. Isn't Harper's on the Phillies, right?
Harper's on the Phillies now.
You got to face him, and then the Mets are decent, correct?
They're not bad. They have good pitching.
And you said Washington, and who's the other two teams in the Marlins and who?
The Braves. The Braves are solid.
That's
the
what I
only
was going to say.
pushovers you have
There's
are the
only one
Marlins
bad
and
team.
Orioles.
Yeah, the Jays are going to be snippy. You know, they always give the Yankees problems, but the Orioles and the Marlins are going to be the only pushovers in that whole competition. Whereas then you go to like the Central Division. Well, the Central Division is not that great either. But if you go to the West, both divisions, the NL and AL West, they're pretty tough. You got the Astros. We'll see how they do without cheating this year. I'm sure they'll still be pretty good. You got the A's, you got the Rangers, and you got the Angels. They're solid. The Dodgers, the Padres are coming up, and then who am I forgetting? Diamondbacks are probably going to be okay. You know, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for sure.
But if the Yankees can get through that sort of schedule and make it it almost seems like the playoffs are going to be easy for them. You know,
Easy,
it depends.
You know what I'm saying is they're going to be
the top teams in each division are still really good.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, but you think about some of those teams. There's only 2 teams in that division that's bad. You're saying other divisions got to have more than 2. You know, I mean,
you got the Central. You got the
toughest.
the Central. You have as for bad teams. You have the Royals. You have the Pirates. Who am I forgetting? Tigers are pretty bad.
White Sox are supposed to be making a turn soon. The Reds are supposed to be making a turn soon. I don't know if that'll be this year or not.
Yeah, they were hyped up for both of those teams. The White Sox and the Reds were hyped up for this year to have a strong season. So I would see if they get a good start, a good hot start, I could see either one of those teams. I would probably put more money on the Reds making a splash in the Central Division.
Yeah, the worst teams are going to be the Royals, Pirates, and Tigers in those 2 divisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mariners are pretty bad. I'm looking at the comments here.
that's frustrating.
You know what? Talking about Seattle, Greg, you brought up a good point. Things we don't know, things you don't think of is there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in Seattle right now. I mean, there's people taking over city blocks and creating their own nations or whatever, and that's in Seattle. So I don't know how that's going to have any effect.
That whole nation, they had what? They had their first few murders too. So good for them, popping their cherry. Nice.
And didn't they complain that the police didn't get there in a timely fashion either?
Exactly.
You know, they kicked the police out of the city. Like they took over the police barracks.
But Seattle, like you said, Seattle, and they're playing in their hubs, right?
What do you mean in their home field? You mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to just play. They're not going to Seattle. They're not going to. But there's,
No, they are.
They are.
So where are the Yankees? Where are they going to actually play?
Yankee Stadium for the Yankees.
And their home ballparks. It'll be just like a regular game, just no fans.
Huh.
Which is why the MLB they're trying to figure out what to do about Toronto, because obviously Toronto can't play in Toronto right now unless they get a waiver from the government.
Mm-hmm. Which means they'd have to be on quarantine for the whole season, probably. They'd have to have some sort of agreement.
The
to keep them separated from everyone.
They might play in their spring training facility in Florida, but obviously we know the viruses are spiking there too, so I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, it's a very sticky situation, and they might have to find a neutral site. Maybe they could play in Buffalo.
Goddamn Floridians are killing us.
Yeah, I know, right? Those jerks. I'm not a Floridian. I live here, but I'm not a Floridian. New Yorker, through and through.
Floridians and Arizonians.
Yep.
Arizonas.
The two locations for spring training.
Yeah.
Figure. So all right. So the Yankees are going to open the season up against the defending world champions, the Washington Nationals, and right now they have it as the 2 starters. 2 starters are going to be Garrett Cole for the Yankees and Max Scherzer for the Nationals. To me, that is like the top matchup. That's exactly how you want to start a season. Not as a Yankee fan going up and facing against Scherzer, not so much because I've seen the Yankees show up to a game and not show up to a game, and it's frustrating when they don't. But as far as a pitching matchup, that is prime time. Going to be awesome.
Although I would say the Stars will probably go. What do you think? The first game, 3-4 innings.
Yeah, they're not stretched out. I would say 5. Scherzer's going to definitely go 5. That guy doesn't do pitch counts as well as the other guys. So Yankees are going to be careful with Cole. That's their big prize. So I doubt they're going to have him pitch more than 5 innings in the first game. You need him to get through to the playoffs, and you need to keep him in bubble wrap for now.
But at least the Yankees right now, I mean, their only question mark is Judge. Other than that, they got a full roster now. They have
This is a blessing in disguise for the Yankees as a team. Like you said, Judge is the only holdout, and he could very well start the season on the roster. It's possible. So it's promising for the Yankees.
Do you think there's a chance? Now, this is very far-fetched, but do you think there's a chance that if one or two pitchers, starters, get quarantined, that they might actually go after, like, Sabathia, bring back my boy?
That guy's done.
He's done.
Yeah, it's just, you think about it, and it's like
he's lost a lot of weight though. He did. Pretty jacked down, I think.
He'll probably suck though.
Didn't he tear his Achilles though? I thought he hurt his. I thought he got hurt.
He can't play this year.
He wouldn't be able to play this year, anyways.
Oh no! Okay, yeah.
No, but all right. So I see in some of the comments here from Gamer King. He said, "Let's get a LA versus New York World Series." I think right now they're the favorites. I think people are saying it's going to be Yankees Dodgers.
The last 3 years.
Yep.
The Dodgers are crazy good. Crazy.
They're stacked, and getting Mookie Betts this year is huge for them.
Like the Dodgers, they set up 2 pitcher rotations they can throw at you with. They're all good.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jake Morrow. Always comes on our chats. Underachieved, in my opinion.
That's what he gets for trying to talk. Sounds like you're singing over there too, Tino.
What's that?
It sounded like you were singing that to us.
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
Oh.
But you were saying.
No, I'm just saying that a lot of the the guys that are on here are like Raiders fans, stuff like that. They're all California people. And I said the Dodgers always underachieve.
And they do.
No matter what.
I mean, they'll make it to the big series, but they can't make it through. And being a Yankee fan, and having the Dodgers play against the Astros and a couple other teams, and the Red Sox recently, I was pulling for them. I don't want either of those teams to win. Fortunately, they lost.
Yeah.
But
Well, let's be honest. I mean, Greg, you made a good point about anything can happen because it's a short season. What was it, 2 years ago? Maybe 3. One of those 2 years, Dodgers had a really, really good team. They were under 500, I think, through the first 40 games. Mm-hmm. So you can't do that this year. Yeah,
if you look at these teams' best 60-game stretches versus like how they start the season sometimes, a lot of these playoffs teams, the A's especially, the A's were terrible to start the season in 2017. Yeah, they were terrible, and then they turned it on and went on a tear to finish the season. So
they're kind of like the opposites of the Mets.
Yeah, Mets always start out really well, and then right around May or June they start to. So.
I did hear a stat that said because MLB is looking to add 2 more teams to the playoffs.
Something like that, yeah.
That was the case. I think the last 20 years, the Mets would meet the playoffs just about every year. They're always right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if they have a good start and they don't get that chance to tank, then they could be one of those teams. But again, they're also playing teams they're playing the Rays, the Red Sox, the Yankees.
Yeah.
All of those teams this year. Then they're playing only teams in the division. So they're not going to get cake games against like the Pirates or the Giants or stuff like that. They're going to be facing tough opponents. All these teams are going to be facing tough opponents.
Which is sometimes a good thing and sometimes bad.
Yeah.
Yep. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see if it actually happens, how this plays out. What I hope is that MLB TV gives me a refund for half the season. Looks like you had a friend there, Tino.
Oh man!
Gee, my fucking popcorn.
Going for the popcorn.
Yeah.
Take my eyes, not my popcorn.
So let's talk a little bit more. But whoever's watching, whoever has access to comments right now, why don't you ask us a couple questions while we chat here, and maybe we can address them before we sign off. And we could talk about getting you guys involved a little bit. But is there anything else you want to talk about the shortened season in the meantime?
Oh man, I just too many unknowns and chances that they're taking. I just no matter what, I don't care. Like I want to see good baseball, but baseball is baseball. I just don't want them to start and then stop the season. That's just be devastating for the sport, especially with the CBA coming up. They can't afford that. So I'm hoping that they have guidelines and protocols for what to do if cases come up and if they have to stop or I just don't want the team to turn into a mess.
Oh, I completely agree. I saw something on, I think it was Facebook the other day from Major League Baseball where they posted all the testing that they're going to do, that what they have to do before every game.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that real quick.
But think
It was
about
a really nice graphic.
spring training. Like they're having guys come in at different times of the day, so it's going to be very spread out. That's a really long day for if you're a coach. Like you have to be there all day long.
I wonder if they'll break the coaching staff up into teams. So only maybe they have the outfielders and infielders come in the morning, and then the pitchers come in the afternoon, and then split it up that way.
That'd be cool if these stadiums could set up like dorms in the stadiums. That way they don't have to worry about traveling.
Well, a couple of those teams, like the Blue Jays, they have a hotel in the outfield. The Rangers used to. They're actually opening. They're opening their new ballpark this year.
Yeah, with no fans.
With no fans, so the hotel's gone. But let me see if I can. I found MLB has it. I'm going to see if I can bring it up on the screen here.
And I'm assuming there's no All-Star game, right?
I don't remember them saying anything about it.
Maybe at the end of the year they'll just release an All-Star team.
That'd be nice. That'd be something.
You trying to bring up on the screen?
Major League Baseball released a graphic the other day, and I found it on my phone. I wanted to see if I could find it and share it. So here it is, so people could see it. Because it talks about all the precautions they're taking.
All the players have to wear full plastic suits,
hazmat suits all around. I bet you the umpires wear masks.
There it is. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't read it, but I can see it.
All right. I'll leave it up for a minute or two. It just says, players and personnel will be tested every other day. Players will receive temperature and symptom checks twice per day. Players and personnel not participating will be sitting in the stands at least 6 feet apart. Anybody testing will be conducted. Antibody testing, sorry, it's small on my screen too, will be conducted once per month. There will be a COVID-19 related injured list, and any player tests positive will not be allowed to return until he is tested negative twice.
So if you're on the team but not dressing that day, you're sitting in the stands?
Yeah.
That's different. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't they do that? Didn't they do that in college hockey? Don't they do that in college hockey?
Yeah, I think of course they do that.
Yeah, they sit in the stands.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take it down now. But that's the graphic I saw. It's on MLB's Facebook page. If you want to look at it again, it's there.
So how do you think it's going to be watching on TV with no people in the stands? Do you think it's going to be kind of cool? Is it going to be depressing? Or
it's going to be interesting. So you remember when a couple years ago in Baltimore, when Baltimore had all those riots?
Yeah.
And they had the Orioles. I don't remember who they were playing against, but the Orioles played in an empty ballpark, and they said it was the weirdest thing. It was so odd because when you're used to playing with thousands of people watching you every game, and then all of a sudden nothing. That's gotta be weird. It's gonna be an adjustment. Tino fights the cat.
He's like an evil villain over there. There's the cat in his lap.
Is that Mr. Bigglesworth?
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, if you're one of those players that relies on adrenaline, like so this is good news for you because you're not
feeds off energy.
There's not going to be fans cheering when a shoe strikes. There's not going to be like that tension in the air when you're coming up game on the line. It's going to feel like basically like inter squad games, pretty much. Like pickup baseball. To me, that's what it would feel like.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean it's like when we used to hop the fence at the softball field and play home run derby.
Exactly.
No one's watching us. Or like when I played in high school, for our high school, we had like 2 people show up to our games. So it was nothing exciting. We weren't that good to begin with. So, huh?
I thought about that the other day when we were playing home run derby, and I pulled the ball foul left into the road and I hit the back of that car.
Yep, I remember that.
Luckily, the car kept driving. We climbed that fence real fast to get out of there.
Yeah, I've never seen. Who was with us? It was you, me, Nick.
I remember.
Nick, me.
I think Anthony was there too. Were you there, Tino?
I was there. Yeah.
I've never seen a group of guys hop a fence so fast before.
Even me. I was
fence now, or?
All right, so I see we got a couple questions now. I probably couldn't with my back, but probably couldn't swing right now. Let's see. We got Gamer King asks, what if they made people sit 6 feet apart in the stadium, so like every other seat? I mean, that's an idea.
I don't think that would be a bad thing.
I thought about that, but you guys have to think about where is it the most crowded in these stadiums? It's entering and exiting, bathrooms and concessions. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to be like the lunch lady in school and say, okay, now your section gets to go to the bathroom right now. Your section gets to go get food right now. Like, unless you put porta potties at every section, like that's where it gets dangerous.
Yeah, but then you have to have someone clean the porta potties because people won't wash their hands in there. Also, if you have people sitting in the same row and you have to get out to use the bathroom or go get a beverage or something like that, then you have to clear out the row and fill it back in. It's
just sitting there watching.
It's gonna be exhausting. It's not even if you're going there and you're gonna have to do that every time someone gets up and anytime you have to go somewhere. I don't think it's gonna be enjoyable. I mean, I had a vacation planned recently or for July that we canceled because we felt like it's just not going to be worth it. You're going to have to deal with all this social distancing stuff, wearing a mask all the time, doing all this stuff, and dealing with the protocol set up. It's not going to be a memorable experience. I'm not going to enjoy it. So we just decided to scratch the vacation. But I feel like that could be applied in some extent to fans going to ballparks before all these protocols are removed.
There's too much of like I said, watching the game's not the problem. It's all the other things that you do at the game that would have to be dealt with. And it's just not. You
can't guarantee that everyone's going to follow the rules. There's always going to be someone that's going to cause a stink. Yeah. You can't control that big of a crowd that easily. Not everyone's going to buy into it, even though that's going to be. I mean, even though they're going to show up and say that they will, there's always going to be someone or something that's got to ruin it for everyone. So
one guy asked, who's the best catcher right now? I think it was Mean519. They asked, who's the best catcher right now?
There's not a lot of good catcher.
I don't know that answer.
No. Offensively, I'm going to be a little Yankee bias here. Gary Sanchez, offensively. Although the last couple of years he's kind of dipped a little bit. The other big name is JT Realmuto. He's with the Phillies right now. He's a very good defensive catcher. And probably one of the better offensive catchers. Yasmani Grandal's always been pretty good. He's in Chicago this year, again with that revamped Chicago lineup. I think those are my top 3.
Molina's not that good anymore.
Molina's still performing.
He's solid. Yeah, he's solid.
He's solid.
He's not as good as he used to be, but he's still pretty good. He's towards the tail end of his career.
First catchers. There's not a lot of great catchers.
There aren't many. But he also asked, are there any prospects that we're looking forward to seeing? I mean, I only am familiar with the Yankees prospects. Right now, they don't really have any top prospects that are near coming to the big leagues. I think Clark Schmidt was one of them. Had a really good spring. He's got a dynamite off-speed pitch. He looked like he had good control of his stuff in spring training. I would like to see him get a chance at some point this year. I think that would be really exciting. That actually would be something that I think we should research a little bit more on and have better familiarity with some of these other teams.
What
prospects.
I will say is that it's just going to be a tough year if you're a prospect because, number one, I don't think minor leagues are playing this year, so you're going to have to be on the major league roster, and you're probably not going to play. Number two, you're only playing 60 games, which means if you have a 5 or 6 game slide, like you're not really performing, you're not going to get the chance that they're going to give you in a normal season when you have 160 games. because they just don't have the wiggle room. You have to – every game means so much more. So if you're struggling in the beginning of your career, you're not going to get that extra chance of that benefit of the doubt. So it's going to be a tough year for any kind of prospect to break in.
I think a lot of the players you're going to see that play in more of a reserve role have been players that have been bench players, but they're more polished. I don't think you're going to, unless injuries plague a team, which we have seen happen to the Yankees last year. You're probably not going to see as many prospects breaking through, like you said, Brad. So I agree with that.
I am excited to see Montgomery come back though and pitch this year.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice if he has a strong season. That's your boy. So Gamer King asked who my favorite player is. That's a tough question. Being a Yankees fan, I would think my favorite player right now is Aaron Judge. Didi was my favorite player on the team last year, but he's a Philly now, so I still respect him. But I think my favorite Yankee would have to be Aaron Judge. I'm excited to see some of these new faces on the Yankees. I'm really excited to see Garrett Cole. He has potential, obviously, being one of the best pitchers in the league. But Yankee, Aaron Judge. What about you, Brad, and Molestino?
Yeah, I actually really like Didi. I was really sad to see him go. He's probably one of my favorite players outside the Yankees. But if you're asking me what my favorite Yankee is right now, you got to go with Glaber. I think Torres, for some reason, does not get talked about in the same sentence as these young guys in the MLB. I don't know why, but when they talk about Acuna or Guerrero Jr. or Albies or
they're all the same age.
What's the guy out in San Diego?
Fernando Tatis Jr.
They always talk about those guys. For some reason, they never talk about Torres. And I don't know if it's because he's a Yankees, so he's getting the whole bias thing that everyone holds against Jeter. They said Jeter had an unfair advantage because he's a Yankees whole career. They're saying Torres, 8 or 9 of his home runs last year came against the Orioles, so those don't count. And it's just garbage like that. But Torres doesn't get the credit he does. He's probably one of the top 3 young guys in the league. So
agreed. I mean, he finished third in the Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. So.
And LeMahieu was kind of my kind of player too.
He's a dark horse.
He just wants to win.
Absolutely. LeMahieu is a good, solid player.
Which they have to decide if they're going to sign him or not. I mean, this is the last year of his contract, and they haven't heard anything about extensions.
No.
Free agency is going to suck going forward, by the way, guys. I know we haven't talked. If you're a young player like Judge Torres, you're probably not going to get those big contracts you thought you were going to because they don't know when fans are going to be back in the stadiums now. So it sucks.
And they can't guarantee that kind of money down the line. I mean, you got Garrett Cole who signed that gigantic deal, and how much revenue are the Yankees losing out on this year that they were banking on using it to pay Garrett Cole his paycheck? So it's and I hate to use the Yankees as an example because they're one of the better financed teams in the major leagues, but I mean it's what I know. But you got to imagine some of these other teams, like small market teams, like the Padres who signed Machado to that big deal. Are they going to be able to afford him in a couple of years if this continues? Mike Trout, he has that huge contract that he signed. He's the best player in the game. Angels are going to be able to make that work? I don't know. A lot of players, if this continues and carries on until next year, a lot of players you might see shuffled around because these small market teams can't afford to pay them. All right, we got distracted a little bit. Tino, who's your favorite Major League Baseball player right now?
Is Andrew McCutchen still in the league?
He is. He's a Philly.
He is.
There it is.
I like him. I like him. He's a good dude. He's fun to follow on social media.
I saw that one post that he showed how much he made in a game check, and it was like $17 million or something like that. I was like, holy shit.
It was like his
or maybe it was like 178,000, but still.
Yeah, I saw this video of him the other day where he and the Phillies third base coach were practicing every player rounds third base. They kind of do have a handshake with their third base coach. So he and their third base coach were practicing social distancing, but doing that like he was rounding third and he was pretending to do it. So it was kind of funny. He's fun to follow on social media. There are a number of guys.
Fast forward to the World Series, your team wins the World Series. Do you think the guys adhere to protocols? Or do you think they're all dogpiling on top of each other?
They gotta.
I have a feeling they're going to be dogpiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
And then immediately walking out and getting tested. No, I'm pretty sure it's hard. It's hard because you work so hard to accomplish this goal. Why would you not want to celebrate with your teammates? It's going to be hard. Even when these guys hit big home runs or get big hits in a game, like say someone hits a walk-off grand slam or a walk-off 3-run home run, it's going to be so hard to not show emotion and not be able to congratulate your teammates.
Yeah,
That's going to be the toughest part for these players.
What if a pitcher throws a no-hitter? You know, what are you going to do? Give everyone a thumbs up?
Hey, air high five. Air high five.
Oh, walk-offs too. Men do the walk-offs. Those are always fun to watch.
Yep. That's going to be different this year. So,
yeah.
And then
getting tested every other day, that's rough.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Because you don't get some of these. Well, I guess they got the advanced testing where you can get your results in 15 minutes. But
sure.
But no, I have a couple friends down here that I play softball with that have tested positive for it, and they had to wait a couple days to get their test results. So crazy how the difference is between cops getting tested and players getting tested, and how quickly they get their results.
Yeah, Danielle has to get tested every 2 weeks, and it usually takes her 2 or 3 days to get her results back.
That's crazy.
This morning. She's got it done this morning.
Yeah. Was it blood test or?
No,
I'm not familiar with the test.
The nasal. It's like a long. Looks like it's a pretty long Q-tip or like a pipe cleaner, and they just stick it right up the nostril. It lasts about 20 seconds. She said it feels like something's itching, like an itch you can't get to. It's not comfortable.
It doesn't sound comfortable.
It's a very uncomfortable test, but it's comfortable. All
right. So let's because we're approaching 50 minutes here. Let's just talk about so shortened season, and I feel like we've talked about this before, and maybe some of our viewers can chime in their thoughts. But let's talk about the World Series and the value of it, because we have a typical season is 162 games. You play three rounds of playoffs, including the wild card, to get to the World Series, and then you have a champion. Well, this year, playoff structure is seemingly going to be the same, but the road to get there is only 60 games, which is about a third of a season. Do you think that it should be still considered a World Series championship, or is it going to have an asterisk, or is it should the name be changed? How do you think they should handle the World Series? Because it's not the same circumstances as a typical season.
I mean, you know my stance on it. We talked about it before. They're still the World Series champions this year. Go in the future when they look back on the history of baseball, you can always say the 2020 World Series champions. You know, that was the year of the national plague or pandemic, and they only played half a season. And you could say that they're not on the same level as the other champions, which they won't be, but they're still the World Series champions 2020.
They're still good.
Because
they're still going to be World Series champions.
Okay. Because I mean, then you run into that situation like we talked about earlier, when one of these not as touted teams gets on to a really hot start, and because it's only 60 games long of a season, they make the playoffs and they win the World Series. And it's a team like the Rockies. Say the Rockies win the World Series this year because they get off to a hot start.
Well, then they deserve it. They were the best at this crazy 2020 year that everyone had to deal with. In fact, they might even be more impressive than some because they have the most pressure-filled set of short games that they had to be on top of your game every single day you step out.
That's true. They are in the NL West. I think the NL West, the West region and the East region are pretty stacked, and those are going to be tough schedules for all those guys. So if a team not considered the favorite, like we'll use the West as an example, the Dodgers, the team other than the Dodgers wins that division and makes it to the World Series, that's pretty impressive. I never really thought about it that way.
But think about this too. Think about the NCAA tournament. Those guys, think about the NC State team with Jim Valvano. They were not supposed to win anything, and now they're touted as such a great team during that thing. That's their championship, so that's what they did. It's like a totally different season.
Yeah, I mean, look at even the NHL, like or any sport that has a tournament like playoffs, you could be a number 8 seed, and if you win the whole thing, like so both the West and the East in hockey get 8 seeds. So there's 16 teams in the playoffs. You're number 8 seed in the West. You might have been the 16th best team, but if you win, you're still the Stanley Cup champions.
Right, but that's after playing a full season, a regular typical season. They still earn that right to get there because they played a full.
Right, or to say not that best team doesn't always win. It's just the one that handles the circumstances the best.
Right, and it also always comes down to who gets hot at the right time. The NCAA tournament, it's a perfect example of that because it's a win or lose situation every game, and if a team can get hot and carry that momentum for the 6 or however many games the team plays in the NCAA tournament, that's great, and that's what makes that bracket exciting because you build the program, you play to win your conference, and you play for that number 1 seed, so you can have the easy first round game. You can hopefully move through the tournament easier, but there's no guarantee, and that's what's so great about college basketball. But they're all playing the same season, they're all playing the same length, they all play. Right. They're all Division I, so they're all playing other competitive teams. So that's different, I think, than saying, well, we're going to cut the season in half, and it's only going to be half a season, but we're still going to play the same playoffs, and the trophy at the end still means the same thing. That's where I get hung up.
I mean, going forward,
but the way you guys just explained it and the way you broke it down for me is a way that I hadn't thought about it before. So it gives it a whole new angle for me.
I mean, going forward, the year 2020 is always going to be known as the year of the national pandemic. So when people look at their history books and they see what team won the World Series, you don't need an asterisk. They know that the season's short. They know that year that this team handled the circumstances the best, and they were the World Series champions of that year. But like you said, they're not going to be held on the same pedestal as every other team that's won the World Series. You can't.
Yeah.
But for that 1 year, they were.
That's true.
But they're going to have that asterisk for more than just. They're going to have it for MLB, NHL, and NBA. All 3 of those, if they all play, they're all going to have that asterisk. Right now, the only one is the NFL, but you never know with the NFL either. So it's like you said, the year 2020 is going to be. They'll make a documentary about it, how crazy sports, all the leading up and all that
absolutely.
Stuff. It'll be.
Well, I'm expecting awesome. a 30. I'm expecting a 30 for 30.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. That's great. I saw one of our viewers, Mean519, said the Dodger Stadium was supposed to host the All-Star game this year, and he was going to try and go, and that's a bummer. Sorry to hear that. I mean, that's got to suck.
I mean, I missed out on 3, 4, 5 concerts this year that got canceled.
Yeah.
Hoping to go to, so it sucks.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but that's unfortunate because the Dodgers clearly I don't know what it takes to get the All-Star game, but I'm assuming you have to put down a certain amount of money and win the bid or have a presentation, and now they're going to get skipped over because whoever's having the All-Star game next year is going to have the All-Star game. So unless they're going to push it back a year, because I don't think they've announced next year.
Go to the next available year for them,
Yeah.
Same thing with Vegas. Vegas lost the NFL draft this year.
Yeah, Vegas missed out on that. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, well, with that said, we're getting close to an hour here, so I think we've had a pretty good conversation. If you guys have any other questions, any viewers or any people who end up watching this later, feel free to comment. Leave these comments. We'll hopefully address them in the next episode. Tune in next time. If you've liked what you've watched so far, subscribe, tell your friends. This is Yankee Chatter as a part of the Bigger and Bradder Sports Network. My name is Greg Andriano. You can find me on Twitter at GregAndriano05. Subscribe to the Yankee Chatter YouTube page as well. We're also on Facebook and all the socials. Guys want to talk about yourselves, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so he said just subscribe, spread the news. Baseball's back, so hopefully you see a lot more of us going forward. If you think we have pretty cool thoughts in the conversation here, we'll include you in it and go from there. So any questions, feel free to get a hold of one of these guys, and we'll address it from there. You want to sign off, bud?
Namaste.
Okay. That's what we can expect.
Yep. But thanks everyone for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Again, tell your friends, subscribe, like, get the word out there. Hopefully we get to see you all very soon, and hopefully baseball is played. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Greg, Brad, Tino, have a good one.